This episode is fueled by Loaded Gun Coffee, veteran-owned, small batch roasted, and bold enough to actually taste as strong as it smells. They're all about quality over gimmicks, and every bag is roasted to order, so it's fresh when it hits your doorstep. You can grab your favorite roast at loadedguncoffee.com and use code JackieEspada for 10% off your order. Support small business, drink bold, and start your day the clean way with Loaded Gun Coffee. Good morning/afternoon, wherever you are in the country. Hello and welcome to Bible Study for Overthinkers. We're starting off today's show a lot better than we started off yesterday, so I say that's a win. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome back. We are going to get into today's reading. We're going to get into Leviticus. I know that if you were here on Thursday, we watched a video that kind of gave us a good summary of what to expect in Leviticus. It's one of those books that a lot of people end up giving up halfway through or part of the way through because they're just like, this doesn't make it, like, why is this important to my life? And I want to let you know that it is important, and we will get through it together because strength in numbers for sure. So thank you guys for being here. If you haven't already, make sure to please hit that thumbs up and share this show out with a friend. Let people know that we are studying the Bible together here on a Sunday, and of course on Thursdays too, because this is a 2 times a week show. But today we are going to get into Leviticus 11 through 20. So we're going to have a good time. I've wanted to first thank our sponsors. First one being Loaded Gun. Of course, it's morning time. If you guys haven't had your much needed morning cup of coffee, make sure to stock up on Loaded Gun so that you have high quality coffee that is also supporting good small business. So thank you to Loaded Gun. Make sure to use my code JackieEspada for 10% off. And of course, also shop our other sponsor, In His Word. I'm so excited to tell you about In His Word, a woman-owned, family-run Christian brand from the Pacific Northwest. 3 sisters and their moms started this business out of their kitchen, creating faith-based apparel and home goods designed to keep us rooted in God's Word. Every design is prayed over, crafted by hand, and made with the mission of helping you carry Scripture into your everyday life. Whether it's a bold reminder or something more subtle that keeps your heart steady, you can shop their collection at inhisword.us and use my code JackieEspada for $10 off orders over $70. That's inhisword.us. Faith you can wear and carry wherever you go. Thank you, In His Word. I have thoroughly enjoyed every single thing that I have gotten from them, and I'm sure Cam has also enjoyed his hat that he has from them.
I have.
He confirms he has. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to support In His Word and grab a t-shirt or a calendar or a hat or a throw pillow, whatever it is. Make sure to put His Word in and around your house and wear it with pride, because that's how we share His Word. So Amber, it's good to see you. And I know that you said that you have to leave early today. So I hope that you have a great day, and that I will see you hopefully later this evening for Good Book Sessions with Bay Theater Dave. I wanted to say thank you to everyone that prayed for me overnight and through the day yesterday. I'm still dealing with the eye thing, but it's draining. I know it's draining. Like I woke up this morning and there was just like gross things all over my eye. So it is draining now. It's just my vision is still pretty blurry in the sense that I have like it's a mass pushing on my eyeball, so it's affecting my vision. So once we have, I'm going to continue. I'm treating it aggressively, and hopefully before the end of this week, because it is the start of a new week, we will be back to having normal eyeball and normal eyelid. I don't wish this on my worst enemy, because it's the worst. The last time that I had a sty this bad was probably 4 years ago. And it was the last time I was in a corporate job. I was actually talking about this with Michelle last night from Tamarack. She's like, what do you think caused it? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. Obviously, I probably, it was because of the dirty makeup brushes that I used Thursday for before the VIP dinner. So that was product number one. Number two was the just like stress, because styes come from stress. And I think just GART, leading up to GART and all of that, it just, that stress and the stress during GART and all of that, of not sleeping regularly and all of that, that kind of just messed with my body even more. So now I'm bringing your own pillowcases. Bringing my own pillowcases. Yeah, bringing my own pillowcases, cleaning my makeup brushes, all of that. Anyways, that's what I've. They're the worst. They really are, Tracy and Jennifer. Jennifer, she said I had one a little bit ago. They suck. Warm, wet washcloth. So I actually made a thing. I usually have like an eye mask that goes over both eyes, and I had to throw it out because it was just gross and dirty, and I needed to get a new one. But this thing came about, and I was like, well, I need one now, and I don't want to wait for it to come in the mail. And so I made one for those that suffer from styes frequently. You can get a clean sock. You get a clean sock, and you get flax seeds. Usually they say rice in a ball, like in the sock, but flax seeds. Thanks. So sock with flax seeds. The flax seeds are going to give you the moist heat. Rice will give you dry heat, and what you need to clear these things out is moist heat to open up those pores and get the stuff moving, the oil that is stuck and clogged in there moving again. So there you go. That is I have spent more than enough time on this subject. So yeah, thank you guys for the prayers, and thank you for the continued prayers. I'm hoping that by the end of this week, hopefully within the next few days, I will be back to normal. But anyways, you guys came here for Bible study, so let's get into some Bible study. What do you think? We're reading from the She Reads Truth Bible, the Christian Standard Bible, if you want to follow along. And of course, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, because supposedly that does something to my account. I don't know if it does or if it doesn't, but they say that it does. So who knows? Kids today too said some call makeup war paint. You healthy or quite beautiful enough. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. So it's funny because for the longest time, probably in 2020, for like 2 or 3 years, I was like, I'm not going to wear makeup. Why do I need makeup? I don't need this stuff. It's toxic. It's just going to get in my pores and it's going to clog everything up. So it's funny, during the height of me not wearing makeup was when I was getting the most styes. And it was because it was the most stressful time of my life, because I was dealing with a corporate job that I absolutely hated. Now I brought makeup back into my life, and I don't use it as often. I probably use it once a quarter, if that. And it's usually just for GART, because in person, it just feels different. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you kids today too. War paint. I like that. War paint. Anyways, chapter 11. First, chapters 1 through 10 really talk about and kind of get into, chapters 1 through 5 specifically. 1 through 7. I don't know. Anyways, the first few chapters of Leviticus gets into the offerings, the burnt offerings, basically all of the different sacrifices that you should be making to God. And then it gets into the posture of the priests. So how the priests should be acting and what their role is in with all of these offerings. Then in chapter 10, we hear the story of Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, and they tried to do their own will, and of course that ends up very badly for them, because they die. They literally, that same fire that they tried to do themselves, they end up getting consumed by it. because the Lord is like, no, this is I say the I have the last word. You are supposed to be honoring me, kind of thing. So that happens, and then there's a bunch of regulations, and now chapter 11, we move from the priests and the sacrifices, and now we're going to get into like the daily living stuff. And of course, this is like, I know people kind of get bummed out and they're like, okay, clean versus unclean. There's too many rules, too many things. But as we kind of read it and get into it, we'll see that there's a deeper meaning behind all of this. And it's not just like rules for rules' sake. There's meaning and discernment and distinction behind all of it. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Chapter 11, clean and unclean land animals. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. Tell the Israelites, you may eat all these kinds of land animals. You may eat any animal with divided hooves and that chews the cud. But among the ones that chew the cud or have divided hooves, you are not to eat them or eat these. Camels, though they chew the cud, do not have divided hooves. They are unclean for you. Hyraxes, though they chew the cud, do not have hooves. They are unclean for you. Hares, though they chew the cud, do not have hooves. They are unclean for you. Pigs, though they have divided hooves, do not chew the cud. They are unclean for you. Do not eat any of their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. So, he gives us rules. And it's funny because I wasn't sure what a Hyrax was, so I'm gonna look that up. Because it's cute. It is cute. Okay, I'm gonna show you what a Hyrax looks like because it is a cute little thing. But we can't eat them. You can't eat these guys. You can't eat Hyrax. Can't eat Hyrax. But they look like little guinea pig, not guinea pigs, but like field bigger than field mice, like what are they called? Prairie dogs, kind of. They're cute. Little humble Hyrax. They're fat. Yeah, they are fat. But they're cute. Anyways, the Hyrax. We're not allowed to eat those. We're not allowed to eat those. But here we're okay. Why is God saying you cannot eat these animals? You can eat these ones. It's not random. It really isn't. God is really teaching us discernment and distinction here. He's quite trying to be like, you can't just eat anything. You can't just go out in the field and just eat away and be greedy and be a fat slob. No, we have to be a little bit more intentional about what we're putting in our bodies. So that's kind of what we're going with there. Now let's transition into sea creatures. So clean and unclean. What am I, Asian? Clean and unclean aquatic animals. Chapter 11, verse 9. This is what you may eat from all that is in the water. You may eat everything in the water that has fins and scales, whether in the seas or streams, but these are to be abhorrent to you. Everything in the seas or streams that does not have fins and scales among all the swarming things and other living creatures in the water. They are to remain abhorrent to you. You must not eat any of their meat, and you must abhor their carcasses. Everything in the water that does not have fins and scales will be abhorrent to you. So, I realize, I love how you guys in the chat were like, yeah, I ate pig this morning on a bagel for breakfast. Trust me, I've definitely had a pig or two in my life, unfortunately, but it's okay because we atone for our sins every day, and these are Old Testament rules. Technically, Jesus sacrificed himself so that we don't have to live by these rules much anymore. So, anyways, clean and unclean sea creatures. Clean creatures, fins and scales. Anything else, unclean. The thing here is the same principle. He's setting clear boundaries because he wants us to be discerning and have distinction. So that's that. Now we're going to get into birds and insects. So unclean birds first. It says you are to abhor these birds. They must not be eaten because they are abhorrent. And now that I think about it, I don't think I would want to eat any of these birds. So you guys let me in the chat know um if you would eat any of these birds, because I would not. Jennifer Ray said I had a wild donut for breakfast. I love that. It's funny because funny enough, last week when we were in Nashville, we went to the Parthenon Park at night. And it's kind of, if you've been outside at night, you sometimes get mistaken for things. And in the distance, there was like these little like pipes that were coming out of the ground, like, I don't know, exhaust pipes or something in the middle of the park. And we look over and Christy's like, "Oh my God, what is that over there?" She's like, "I really want to go see what that is." And she goes and like gets closer to look. And she's like, "Oh, those are just pipes." So we would walk by and like, "Oh look, here are the wild pipes, the pipes in their wild atmosphere." So yes, I get the wild donut comment and I love it. Anyways, unclean birds. So we have eagles. No thanks. I don't want to eat an eagle. Bearded vultures, Egyptian vultures, kites, any kind of falcon. I don't want to eat a kite. A falcon, every kind of raven, ostriches, short-eared owls. So does that make long-eared owls okay? Just kidding, by the way. Gulls, any kind of hawk, little owls, cormorants. Oh wait, long-eared owls. It is here. Short-eared and long-eared. We're not allowed to eat those. Barn owls, eagle owls, ospreys, storks, any kind of heron, hoopos. Is that how you say that? Hoopos and bats. So I didn't think a bat was a bird. I thought a bat was a mammal. But I guess because it's a flying creature. Yeah, it says unclean birds. Bats are not birds, but a bat is listed. I, for one, would not eat any of those birds, and I can totally understand why we would not eat a bat or any of these birds. Kids today too said some of those still make sense. Got food poisoning from a raw oyster years ago. See, yeah, I mean, makes sense. It also comes down to just cleanliness practices of harvesting the food and all of that. So, but I thought I totally understand what you're talking about. They also said thought I was dying and wanted to get over it. I get that too. Food poisoning is definitely no fun. So yeah. Tracy Nanette said that's how you got the COVIDs, with the bats, eating the bats. I did not eat the bats, so therefore I did not get COVID. Boom. Anyways, let's keep going. We got to get into insects now. Clean and unclean flying insects. All winged insects that walk on all fours are to be abhorrent to you, but you may eat these kinds of all the winged insects that walk on all fours. Those that have jointed legs above their feet for hopping on the ground. You may eat these. Any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, and grasshopper. All other winged insects that have 4 feet are to be abhorrent to you. Well, I, for one, will not be eating any insects, so no problem there. I have no interest. No interest at all in eating an insect, not even an ant. And that's also, I think that would be unclean. I think, right? I don't know. It's not winged. Okay. So, fair. Okay, so I'm going to look it up anyway. So is an ant unclean according to the Bible? Right. Yes, ants are considered unclean according to the dietary laws in the Bible. Okay, so under Leviticus, most winged insects that crawl are classified as detestable or unclean, with specific exceptions allowed as such as locusts, crickets, and grasshoppers, which have jointed legs for hopping. So because Because ants do not have jointed legs for hopping, they fall under the category of swarming, creeping creatures that are forbidden. So, no ants for us. Also, why would you want to eat them? ZBM also has a point. She says, or snails, pointing you out, France. Nasty, even though an escargot is pretty good. If you get a nice escargot with like the garlic butter, with the little piece of garlic bread, it's pretty good. Just saying. Uh Kind of gross. I keep hitting this thing and I'm sorry. The ant I tasted was very lemony. That's gross. I'm good. You can have all the ants. I don't want any of them. All right, so flying creatures, we got our birds, we've got our insects. Again, why are we including all of this? The reason why we are including this is because nothing in life is just neutral. Even down to your food choices should reflect your obedience to God. So that is why it's included. And a lot of people just kind of just skip over it and, avoid the book of Leviticus completely. But there really is a deeper meaning of the type of reverence we should be having and the worship we should be having. And maybe we don't follow these rules strict to the T kind of thing, and we're not following every single one, but the intentionality and the meaning behind it is what we're really trying to absorb and actually implement in our lives every single day. So I hope that makes sense. That's gross. Amber, you're right. Locust, the food of choice for John the Baptizer. Delicious, but also gross. But also, if it makes sense, because he was just wandering the wilderness, and in the wilderness, there's not always going to be just a wild animal there for you to slaughter. Sometimes you're going to have to, desperate times, and you're going to have to suck it up and eat a locust every once in a while. Couldn't be me, but good for him. Hilarious! Oh my god. Tracy Nanette said there's an ant crawling on her Bible. They must have known. Must have known we were talking about him. All right, let's keep going. So, purification after touching dead animals. Yum. Verse 24. These will make you unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean until evening, and whoever touches or whoever carries any of their carcasses is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. All animals that have hooves and do not have a divided hoof and do not chew the cud are unclean for you. Whoever touches them becomes unclean. All the four-footed animals that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean until evening. Excuse me, I skipped a line. And anyone who carries their carcasses is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. They are unclean for you. These creatures that swarm on the ground are unclean for you. Weasels, mice, any kind of large lizard, geckos, monitor lizards, common lizards, skinks, and chameleons. These are unclean for you among all the swarming creatures. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. When any one of them dies and falls on anything, it becomes unclean. Any item of wood, clothing, leather, sackcloth, or any implement used for work. It is to be rinsed with water and will remain unclean until evening. Then it will be clean. If any of them falls into any clay pot, everything in it will become unclean. You are to break it. Any edible food coming into contact with that unclean water will become unclean, and any drinkable liquid in any container will become unclean. Anything one of their carcasses falls on will become unclean. If it is an oven or stove, it is to be smashed. Yeah. It is unclean and will remain unclean for you. A spring or cistern containing water will remain clean, but someone who touches a carcass in it will become unclean. If one of their carcasses falls on any seed that is to be sown, it is clean. But if water has been put on the seed and one of their carcasses falls on it, it is unclean for you. If one of the animals that you use for food dies, anyone who touches its carcass will be unclean until evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. Anyone who carries its carcass must wash its clothes and will be unclean until evening. So, first off, don't touch the dead things because you will be unclean until evening. Okay? That is rule number one. Don't touch the dead things. Don't carry the dead things. Don't be in the vicinity of a dead thing. I wish. Last night the cat tried to touch me with a dead thing, and it was still alive. So technically I wasn't unclean. I am clean. But she was ah ah ugh. Yikes. Well, you guys, if you were watching Flow last night, you kind of got like a condensed version, a very condensed version. You just got I got touched by a dead bird. Anyways, I walk outside this door, right? I walk outside this door because I hear the cat because I could hear her from the other side of the room. And when I hear her like that, it's usually because she's trying to communicate with me that she killed something. And so I just opened the door because I thought she was just meowing. No, she had a bird in her mouth. She had a bird in her mouth and it was not dead. So I am not unclean. But she tried to kill it. And because she was just coming inside the house. She was just like, okay, here's my bird coming inside the house to eat my bird. No, ma'am. So it touched my leg. It flew away because it was still alive. And no, no thanks. Cam said being touched by a bird isn't as cool as being touched by an angel. Mm-hmm. That is right. Yes. Okay. But yeah, don't touch the birds. Don't touch the dead things. You become unclean. And there's deeper meaning to this, of course. Why do they keep touching, talking about the touching and the dead things and the clean and unclean and all that? Why? Well, death. Death technically is the result of sin. So, there's the meaning behind this is that their separation from death is equal or equivalent to the symbol of being holy. So that the separation matters. That is something to definitely to think about. See, yeah, I didn't want to bring that up. The cat. You can't eat cats, ZBM. You can't eat cats. She said she tried cougar. That's a cat. You can't eat cats, ZBM. You can't eat cats. Anyways, let's go ahead and finish off chapter 11. It's taken us 30 minutes to get through one chapter, but that's okay. We're talking about dead things. Unclean swarming creatures is where we're going to be finishing. It says all the creatures that swarm on the earth are abhorrent. They must not be eaten. Do not eat any of the creatures that swarm on the earth. Anything that moves on its belly or walks on all fours or many feet, for they are abhorrent. Do not become contaminated by any creature that swarms. Do not become unclean or defiled by them. For I am the Lord your God. So you must consecrate yourselves and be holy because I am holy. Do not defile yourselves by any swarming creature that crawls on the ground. For I am the Lord, who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God. So you must be holy because I am holy. This is the law concerning animals, birds, all living creatures that move in the water, and all creatures that swarm on the ground, in order to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between the animals that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. So, why do we end with identity? We see God saying, be holy because I am holy. I brought you out of Egypt. And that's the key here. This isn't just about random rules like we were talking about before. This is about identity. He's telling his people, you need to live differently because you belong to me. You are a people that are set apart. You should not be, doing the things that the commoner does, the people that is just doing the things that they don't know me. I'm giving you rules so that you can be obedient and your behavior is going to, your identity is what's going to drive your behavior essentially. So that is what we've got going on here, right? And that's chapter 11. chapter 11. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is really short. So let's go ahead and read chapter 12. This is purification after childbirth. So this chapter can feel kind of confusing at first, but we're going to hopefully kind of digest and break this apart together. So, chapter 12. The Lord spoke to Moses. Tell the Israelites, when a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a male child, she will be unclean 7 days, as she is during the days of her menstrual impurity. The flesh of his foreskin will be circumcised on the 8th day. She will continue in purification from her bleeding for 33 days. She must not touch any holy thing or go into the sanctuary until completing her days of purification. But if she gives birth to a female child, she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as she is during her menstrual impurity. She will continue in purification from her bleeding for 66 days. So, a woman is considered ceremonially unclean for a period of time. That's not saying that childbirth is sinful. It's not saying that. What it is, it's about ritual purity. And why? Why is that? Because it involves blood. And we talked about this on Thursday. Life and blood are connected. That's why they have all of those things about the offerings and stuff, and how you can't eat blood, and all of that. It involves blood. And so it is a physical process tied to life and mortality. So it really is like it's a celebration, if you will, of the actual birth of a person. So that's why it's not supposed to be something that is looked down negatively. It's supposed to almost be like a celebration, but it's very a ceremonial thing, if you will. But my question to you, and I don't know if you guys in the chat will know this or not, but why is there different rules for when you birth a male child versus birthing a female child? Like the healing time is twice as long. So that's not true. Cam said it was because women are more difficult. It's not true at all. I don't know. Let's see what the internet says. I'll give you guys some time in the chat to ask, or not ask, but respond. So is the healing time for birth of male versus female child different? Okay. So Leviticus 12, the purification period for a woman is 40 days for a boy, 7 days, and then 33 days, and then 80 days for a girl. So 14 days and then 66 days. It says that the Bible does not provide explicit reason. Obviously, we don't know. But scholars propose that this, representing ritual impurity rather than sin, relates to ancient biological beliefs, covenant rights, and the symbolic burden of bearing future life. Ah, okay. That makes sense. I get it. It could be, the whole male versus female thing, but gender of the newborn. Yeah, interesting. The female child herself will carry the future potential for motherhood, thus symbolizing a greater loss of life in terms of future childbearing potential from the mother's body. I could agree with that. That I can agree with. Others believe it symbolizes the greater pain and travail that the daughter will one day experience because she ultimately has to leave her family and stuff. That makes sense. Or that the mother will experience having a teenage daughter. Okay. Cam said it, or that the mother will have to experience having a teenage daughter. That could be it too, but that's more of like a modern day description than one that would be attributed to those ancient times. But yeah, that's interesting. Interesting that they have that distinction between a male versus a female birth. Anyways, let's keep going. We've got some more to get to. Chapter 12, verse 6. When her days of purification are complete, whether for a son or daughter, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting a year-old male lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. That's interesting. We have, oh, that's B. Okay, never mind. He will present them before the Lord and make atonement on her behalf. She will be clean from her discharge of blood. This is the law of a woman giving birth, whether to a male or female. So that is the offering. So after the period ends, she the purification period ends, she's supposed to bring both a burnt offering and a sin offering. And you may be thinking, why a sin offering? Because, you know, technically she didn't sin. She just gave birth to a child. But it really is it's not so much because she sinned, but it is because of the purification that is required to re-enter worship and the covenant with God at that time. So that is why she's supposed to do that. And then verse 8, which is where we're ending chapter 12, which was a nice little short little chapter, which was great. Says, but if she doesn't have sufficient means for a sheep, she may take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. Then the priest will make atonement on her behalf and she will be clean. So, just like we saw at the beginning of Leviticus in the first few chapters, if you don't have the means and you don't have the money to get an actual goat or a goat or a lamb or pigeon, you can absolutely bring 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, meaning that God is always making it a way and making it convenient for everyone. So no one feels excluded and everyone has access to God. So that is where we're ending chapter 12. Chapter 11 and 12, we're going to kind of piggyback on each other for the big themes of those 2 chapters. First one being that holiness shows up in everyday life, whether it be in food, the things that you eat, the things that you touch, routine moments. They're not just big spiritual moments. They're just small little things that we do throughout the day. The second theme is that God is teaching distinction here. Clean versus unclean is trying to actually recognize difference, right? So that is it's not just rules for rules sake, is trying to kind of give you more intentionality and kind of make you step back for a second and think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Third theme is that identity drives behavior. And he said it himself. He said, be holy because I am holy. You are called to live differently because you belong to him. And then the last thing is that God provides a way back. Even when someone becomes unclean, he gives you ways. There's always a path to restoration. Whether you have the means to go full on and do the whole sheep or goat or lamb, or if you just have enough for 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons. The connection to Jesus here is that these laws show that there's a constant awareness of purity, but also how truly hard it is to stay unclean or to stay clean. However, in the New Testament, where we just came from, Jesus flipped all of this. Instead of avoiding impurity, he touches it and makes it clean. So we see that when he touches the leper or when, he's healing all these different things. And ultimately, he ends up removing the need for these systems that were established in the Old Testament. So that is where we are, chapters 11 and 12. Now we are going to be getting into chapters 13 and 14. So these ones are a little bit longer, or at least chapter 13 is a little bit longer. But we are going to be getting into identifying impurity. So we're going to look at skin diseases. We're going to look at the home. We're going to look at a few of those things. And then in chapter 14, we're going to talk about the restoring the person back into the system. So let's get into it. Chapter 13. Let's get into some skin diseases. And honestly, this is kind of gross, but we're going to get through it together. Chapter 13. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. When a person has a swelling, scab, or spot on the skin of his body, and it may be a serious disease, on the skin of his body, he is to be brought to the priest Aaron or to one of his sons, the priests. The priest will examine the sore on the skin of his body. If the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is in fact a serious skin disease. After the priest examines it, he must pronounce him unclean. But if the spot on the skin of his body is white and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest will quarantine the stricken person for 7 days. The priest will then re-examine him on the 7th day. If he sees that the sore remains unchanged and has not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine him for another 7 days. The priest will examine him again on the 7th day. If the sore has faded and has not spread on the skin, the priest is to pronounce him clean. It is a scab. The person is to wash his clothes and will become clean. But if the scab spreads further on his skin after he has presented himself to the priest for his cleansing, he is to present himself again to the priest. The priest will examine him, and if the scab has spread on the skin, then the priest must pronounce him unclean. He has a serious skin disease. So, why are we examining the skin so carefully, and why are we giving specific instructions? We're looking for discoloration, we're looking for depth of infection, and we're looking for spreading. Why so detailed? This isn't just medical here. It's really spiritual and communal. The priest's role here is to declare clean versus unclean, right? But it's really up to the priest to kind of discern. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely kind of gross if you think about it, but also interesting at the same time. All right, let's go back into some diseases, some skin diseases. This is chapter 13, verse 9. It says, when a case of serious skin disease may have developed on a person, he is to be brought to the priest. The priest will examine him. If there is a white swelling on the skin that has turned the hair white, and there is a patch of raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic serious disease on the skin of his body, and the priest must pronounce him unclean. He did not quarantine him, for he is unclean. But if the skin disease breaks out on all over the skin, so that it covers all the skin and of the stricken person from his head to his feet, so far as the priest can see, the priest will look, and if the skin disease has covered his entire body, he is to pronounce the stricken person clean. That doesn't make any sense to me. Since he turned totally white, he is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. When the priest examines the raw flesh, he must pronounce him unclean. Raw flesh is unclean. This is a serious skin disease. But if the raw flesh changes and turns white, he is to go to the priest. The priest will examine him, and if the sore has turned white, the priest must pronounce the stricken person clean. He is clean. So, we're describing a chronic skin disease. I'm thinking, eczema, I don't know, other things. The lack of lotion. I don't think that's not a skin disease. I don't think. But an interesting detail here is that sometimes the full body whitening, it means that it's clean. That doesn't make any sense because obviously if it's like a small patch and it's white, it would be unclean. But the reason why they're talking about the full body whitening here is because it shows that the condition has basically run its course and that not everything is what it first appears to be. And that's why we are called to look deeper, why we're called to discern and really figure out if this is actually what it looks like. Interesting. So, yeah, let's keep going. Chapter 13, verse 18. Now we're going to talk about a few different cases. We're going to talk about a few different skin cases. It's not fun, but it's important. It is important. So, verse 18. When a boil appears on the skin of someone's body and it heals, and a white swelling or a reddish white spot develops where the boil was, the person is to present himself to the priest. The priest will make an examination, and if the spot seems to be beneath the skin and the hair in it has turned white, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is a case of serious skin disease that has broken out in the boil. But when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in it and it is not beneath the skin but is faded, the priest will quarantine him 7 days. If it spreads further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is in fact a disease. If the spot remains where it is and does not spread, it is only the scar from the boil. The priest is to pronounce him clean. When there is a burn on the skin of one's body produced by fire and the patch made raw by the burn becomes reddish white or white, the priest is to examine it. If the hair in the spot has turned white and the spot appears to be deeper than the skin, it is a serious skin disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest must pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease, but when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in the spot, it is not beneath the skin but is faded, the priest will quarantine him 7 days. The priest will re-examine him on the 7th day. If it has spread further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is in fact a case of serious skin disease. But if the spot has remained where it was and has not spread on the skin but is faded, it is a swelling from the burn. The priest is to pronounce him clean, for it is only the scar from the burn. When a man or woman has a condition on the head or chin, the priest is to examine the condition. If it appears to be deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellow and sparse, the priest must pronounce the person unclean. It is a scaly outbreak, a serious skin disease of the head or chin. When the priest examines the scaly condition, if it does not appear to be deeper than the skin and there is no black hair in it, the priest will quarantine the person with the scaly condition for 7 days. Scaly condition. You guys let me know what you guys think about what that is in the chat. Because I have an idea, but I want to hear what you guys think. The priest will re-examine the condition on the 7th day. If the scaly outbreak has not spread and there is no yellow hair in it and it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, the person is to shave himself but not shave the scaly area. Then the priest will quarantine the person who has the scaly outbreak for another 7 days. The priest will examine the scaly outbreak on the 7th day, and if it is not spread on the skin and does not appear to be deeper than the condition or than the skin, the priest is to pronounce the person clean. He is to wash his clothes and will be clean. But if the scaly outbreak spreads further on the skin after his cleansing, the priest is to examine the person. If the scaly outbreak has spread on the skin, the priest does not need to look for yellow hair. The person is unclean. But if as far as he can see, the scaly outbreak remains unchanged and black hair has grown in it, then it has healed. He is clean. The priest is to pronounce the person clean. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin of his body, the priest is to make an examination. If the spots on the skin of the body are dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. The person is clean. So, lots of different cases there, lots of different skin ailments. We go through boils, we go through burns, we go through rashes, we go through scalp conditions, and all of this is to basically show us that impurity can show up in many different ways. And that yes, it comes in different forms, but we need discernment, not assumptions. We don't need to just, don't just need to just jump in and make a rash reaction and just like end the person's life. No, we need to think about this and, use careful discernment to figure out if this is actually a clean disease or an unclean disease. So that is what we've got going on there. Yeah, right, ZBM sounds like a reaction to something she said. Yeah, I don't necessarily know what the scaly thing is, but I guess we'll figure it out. All right. So let's keep going. What do you guys think? Let's keep going. Making sure I miss anything. All right. Verse 40. And I think is this where we end? No. We still got a little bit more of chapter 13. All right. Chapter 13, verse 40. Now we're going to talk about isolating a person. So if a man loses the hair of his head, he is bald, but he is clean. Or if he loses the hair at his hairline, he is bald on his forehead, but he is clean. But if there is a reddish white condition on the bald head or forehead, it is a serious skin condition breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swelling of the condition on his bald head or forehead is reddish white, like the appearance of a serious skin disease on his body, the man is afflicted with a serious skin disease. He is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. The infection is on his head. So that is the first thing. If you are declared unclean, what is supposed to be done? This is chapter 13, verse 45. And it says, the person who has a cast of serious skin diseases is to have his clothes torn and his hair hanging loose, and he must cover his mouth and cry out, unclean, unclean. He will remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He must live alone in a place outside the camp. So, why are we isolating them? They have to live outside, and they also have to warn people and shout out, I'm unclean. So why are we isolating them? It's to protect the community, obviously, but also it shows how serious impurity is. This part of the whole thing is really heavy because we have separation, we see loneliness, and we see exclusion. So sin isolates symbolically and also physically in this time. So interesting that they included that. Let's keep going and see why they include fabrics now. So now we're going to talk about contaminated fabrics. So this is chapter 13, verse 47. Well, starting with verse 47. We got a long little bit to read. So contaminated fabrics says if a fabric is contaminated with mildew in wool or linen fabric, in the warp or weft of linen or wool, or in leather or anything made of leather, and if the contamination is red or green in fabric, the leather, or the warp, the weft, or any leather article, it is a mildew contamination, and it is to be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the contamination and quarantine the contaminated fabric for 7 days. The priest is to re-examine the contamination on the 7th day. If it has spread in the fabric, the warp, the weft, or the leather, regardless of how it is used, the contamination is harmful mildew. It is unclean. He is to burn the fabric, the warp or weft in wool or linen, or any leather article which is contaminated. Since it is harmful mildew, it must be burned. When the priest examines it, if the contamination has not spread in the fabric, the warped or weft, or any leather article, the priest is to order whatever is contaminated to be washed and quarantined for another 7 days. After it has been washed, the priest is to examine the contamination. If the appearance of the contaminated article has not changed, it is unclean. Even though the contamination is not spread, you must burn the fabric. It is a fungus on the front or back of the fabric. If the priest examines it and the contamination has faded after it has been washed, he is to cut the contaminated section out of the fabric, the leather, or the warp or weft. But if it reappears in the fabric, the warp or weft, or any leather article, it has broken out again. You must burn whatever is contaminated. But if the contamination disappears from the fabric, the warp or weft, or any leather article which has been washed, it is to be washed again, and it will be clean. This is the law concerning a mildew contamination in wool or linen fabric, warp or weft, or any leather article in order to pronounce it clean or unclean. So, yes, yeah, just Kath. She said that the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years, 100%. That is definitely where, and we actually read, I think, part of this, the blood section at least, or actually no, the bodily discharge is going to come up in chapter 15, but we did read these, and they actually showed it in the episode of The Chosen that we watched. But why are we including clothing? Even clothes can have mold and mildew. We know that. But why are we including this? Well, impurity isn't just personal. It can also affect our surroundings. So this is more of like I don't know, kind of like a parallel of what sin does in the real world, and just kind of visually showing that in contaminations of fabrics and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool. I know it's a lot of just like boring words and stuff for a lot of people. But I also feel like this right here, like it shows us parallels. If you really think deeper, it shows us the deeper meanings behind how we should be living our lives. And the rules may not apply necessarily to our day-to-day lives as they used to, and like in the Old Testament, because of Jesus, but it's nice to be able to just kind of go back and reflect on these things too. So that was chapter 13. Now we are going to get into chapter 14. Chapter 14 is where we're going to get into the restoration. So we just talked about the skin diseases and the contaminated fabrics. Now, how are we going to cleanse ourselves from these contaminated diseases? So, chapter 14, this is the cleansing of skin diseases. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses. This is the law concerning the person afflicted with a skin disease on the day of his cleansing. He is to be brought to the priest, who will go outside the camp and examine him. If the skin disease has disappeared from the afflicted person, the priest will order that 2 live clean birds, cedarwood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, be brought for the one who is to be cleansed. Then the priest will order that one of the birds be slaughtered over fresh water in a clay pot. He is to take the live bird together with the cedarwood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, and dip them all into the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. He will then sprinkle the blood 7 times on the one who is to be cleansed from the skin disease. He is to pronounce him clean and release the live bird over the open countryside. The one who is to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe with water. He is clean. Afterward, it may enter the camp, but he must remain outside his tent for 7 days. He is to shave off all his hair again on the 7th day, his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and the rest of his hair. He is to wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He is clean. So, those are the rules for cleansing after a skin disease. It's very unique. And we're starting with when someone is healed, the priest goes outside the camp. And that's important because obviously that person that was sent away can't come in just yet. Then we do the ritual, the first ritual, which is the 2 birds, the water, and the blood. We see one bird is killed and the other one is released, right? So one bird is killed, one is released. Why is that? One of the birds is going to represent death, right? The death of the old life, the old thing, the affliction, whatever it is, they are now dead. We have another bird that now represents the new life, the freedom, the just where we're going to next after the restoration that God just gave us. And I think that's really beautiful. And I love the symbolism behind that. And I think that it's something we may not necessarily agree with all the things that they're doing and all of that, but we don't have to, because we don't have to practice them today. But it's still something to definitely keep in the back of our mind, because God truly meets you where you are. He sends the priest to you because you've been cast out. And he will give you the freedom that you so deserve. So, good little first part there. Now, let's get into the second part. Pause. We pause there. He initially is out, right? At the camp or outside the camp. They start their ritual there. Sit for 7 days, cleanse all of that, shave your head, wait 7 days. After those 7 days, shave your hair off all over again and wash your clothes. Now you're clean, right? So you are now clean. You have sat out of the campsite, all of that. Now I think you're welcome to come back in. But there's more things that you have to do. Chapter 14, verse 10 says, on the 8th day, he must take 2 unblemished male lambs, an unblemished year-old ewe lamb, a grain offering of 6 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil, and 1/3 of a quart of olive oil. The priest who performs the cleansing will place the person who is to be cleansed together with these offerings before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest is to take one male lamb and present it as a guilt offering, along with the 1/3 quart of olive oil, and he will present them as a presentation offering before the Lord. He is to slaughter the male lamb at the place in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and burnt offering are slaughtered. For like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is especially holy. Remember that. The priest is to take some of the blood from the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest will take some of the 1/3 quart of olive oil and pour it into his left palm. The priest will dip his right finger into the oil in his left palm and sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. From the oil remaining in his palm, the priest will put some on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. What is left of the oil in the priest's palm is to be put on the head of the one to be cleansed. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from his uncleanness. Afterward, he will slaughter the burnt offering. The priest is to offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. The priest will make atonement for him, and he will be cleaned. So, he's re-entered into society. Now we need to offer a guilt offering, a sin offering, and a burnt offering. Then we have blood on the ear, the thumb, the right thumb, and the right toe. Again, and if you guys remember, this was the same thing that Moses had to do for the priests. That's how they got their atonement. And why are we repeating this again? Well, restoration is now complete. It is not partial restoration, meaning they are fully brought back in. They are sanctified from the tip of their head to the toes of their feet. So it is a great visual. Their whole life is covered. They are fully restored. Now they can go back and be reassimilated into society. So God is a God is going to make it available for everyone, right? But in order to do that, he knows that not everybody is going to have 2 lambs and all of the things, right? So to meet them where they are, he gives them this as an option. So chapter 14, verse 21 says, "But if he is poor and cannot afford these, he is to take one male lamb for a guilt offering to be presented in order to make atonement for him, along with 2 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, 1/3 of a quart of olive oil, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, whatever he can afford, one to be a sin offering and the other a burnt offering. On the 8th day, he is to bring these things for his cleansing to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest will take the male lamb for the guilt offering and the 1/3 quart of olive oil and present them as a presentation offering before the Lord. After he slaughters the male lamb for the guilt offering, the priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the right earlobe of the one to be cleansed, on the right thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest will pour some of the oil into his left palm. With his right finger, the priest will sprinkle some of the oil in his left palm 7 times before the Lord. The priest will also put some of the oil in his palm on the right earlobe of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the same place as the blood of the guilt offering. What is left of the oil in the priest's palm he is to put on the head of the one to be cleansed to make atonements for him before the Lord. He is to then sacrifice one type of what he can afford, either the 2 turtle doves or young pigeons, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, sacrificing what he can afford together with the grain offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement before the Lord for the one to be cleansed. This is the law for someone who has a skin disease and cannot afford the cost of his cleansing." So, He's giving us a cheaper option again. And I love that because he's making he's still giving the full offering, right? But there's a reduced version. Same pattern here. God makes restoration accessible for everyone. So I love that. And if you missed it, I know that we didn't. If you guys missed Thursday's Bible study, we talked about this with the priests, with the actual the ear lobe, the hand, the foot, that whole thing. Well, if you missed it, the ear, the symbolism of covering the earlobe is blessing everything that you hear. Then we have the hand blessing what you do, and then the foot blessing where you go, so that your whole life is set apart. So that's the reason and the symbolism behind the earlobe, the hand, and the foot. Um, if you missed it by chance. So that is where we are, and this is where we are going to be closing out chapter 14. We're going to be talking about houses now, so our homes. Let's see what he has to say about our homes. So cleansing of contaminated objects. Verse 33 says, the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, when you enter the land of Canaan that I am giving you as a possession, and I place a mildew contamination in a house in the land you possess, the owner of the house is to come and tell the priest, something like mildew contamination has appeared in my house. The priest must order them to clear the house before he enters to examine the contamination, so that nothing in the house becomes unclean. Afterward, the priest will come to examine the house. He will examine it, and if the contamination in the walls of the house consists of green or red indentations that appear to be beneath the surface of the wall, the priest is to go outside the house to its doorway and quarantine the house for 7 days. The priest is to return on the 7th day and examine it. If the contamination has spread on the walls of the house, the priest must order that the stones with the contamination be pulled out and thrown into an unclean place outside the city. He is to have the inside of the house completely scrapped and have the plaster that is scraped off dumped in an uncleaned place outside the city. Then they are to take different stones to replace the former ones and take additional plaster to replaster the house. So that is the first thing, right? You clean your house if you have mildew and all of that. You let it sit. If it keeps spreading, you take out those contaminated pieces and you throw them out. Let's keep going to see what else it says. Verse 43 says, if the contamination reappears in the house after the stones have been pulled out and after the house has been scraped and replastered, the priest is to come and examine it. If the contamination has spread in the house, it is harmful mildew. The house is unclean. It must be torn down with its stones, its beams, and all its plaster, and taken outside the city to an unclean place. Whoever enters the house during any of the days the priest quarantines it will be unclean until evening. Whoever lies down in the house is to wash his clothes, and whoever eats in it is to wash his clothes. But when the priest comes and examines it, if the contamination is not spread in the house after it was replastered, he is to pronounce the house clean because the contamination has disappeared. He is to take 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop to purify the house, and he is to slaughter one of the birds over a clay pot containing fresh water. He will take the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn and the live bird, dip them in the blood of the slaughtered bird and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He will purify the house with the blood of the bird, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bird into the open countryside outside the city. In this way, he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. So, yeah, borax works, I hear. Kids today, too. So that, more rituals. We're shifting to mold in the homes, and if a house is infected, they obviously inspect it. They remove, the infected pieces. If it spreads, they destroy the entire house. And why is that so extreme? It's basically it's almost like a comparison of sin. So impurity will continue to spread if it's not dealt with, right? Same thing with sin. If your sin is not dealt with, it will continue to spread. So I love that they included that. It may not seem like it may seem something super mundane and something we don't really need to take or worry about. But it is something that is important because just like sin, it is going to destroy the house. So, don't ignore the spread. This is how we're going to end chapter 14, and then we're going to take a quick pause for a quick commercial break, and then we'll get back into the rest of our reading for today. It won't be as dry, I don't think, as like this stuff was. So, chapter 14, verse 54. This is the law for any skin disease or mildew, for a scaly outbreak, for mildew in clothing or on a house, and for a swelling, scab, or spot to determine when something is clean or unclean. This is the law regarding skin disease and mildew. So, laws up, it's just summarizing everything. Laws for diagnosing and cleansing, just for clarity and consistency. So, chapter 13, chapter 14. Impurity separates from community, worship, closeness, all of that. And of course, discernment matters. So not everything is obvious, and careful examination is required in these instances. Theme number 3 is that restoration is possible. Even after you've been separated and isolated and all of that, God is still going to provide a way for you to come back to him. And then the last thing is that impurity spreads if it is ignored. That includes in people, in clothing, in homes. It will not stay contained. So make sure to stop the spread. And of course, our connection to Jesus. This is where it really clicks with the Gospels, right? People with leprosy were isolated. They were untouchable, but Jesus still came. He touched them. He healed them. He restored them. And he didn't become unclean because what he was doing was he was making them clean. And spiritually, he does the same thing for us each and every day. So that is a great reminder. And that is a great place for us to quickly pause and thank a few more of our sponsors of today's show. The first one being Tamarack Garden. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this ad when I showed it yesterday. But here's our new Tamarack Garden ad.
Your body doesn't need more synthetic fixes. It needs real plant medicine. Wild herbs are packed with minerals, adaptogens, and healing compounds your body actually recognizes and can use, supporting energy, immunity, and balance from the inside out. At Tamarack Garden, our supplements bring these overlooked weeds and wildflowers back into your daily routine. Don't just manage symptoms, support your body and eat your weeds.
I love that commercial, and thank you, our friends over at Tamarack Garden. All you have to do is shop any of their products, and you can use my code Jackie Espada for $10 off any order of $50 or more. I mean, truly, Michelle has healed me on multiple occasions with her tinctures, her salves, her friendship in general. She's a light, a breath of fresh air, and truly appreciate their family for being who they are and sticking to the mission that God has given them. So, I guess this is where we can be uncomfortable together. Let's talk about some bodily discharge. This chapter can make people feel really uncomfortable, but it's actually doing something very, very intentional. And that is showing us that God cares about holiness in every part of our lives, even in the private parts. So we are still enforcing or reinforcing in this chapter that impurity still spreads, but there is always a way back. So let's go on to chapter 15. And let's talk about some male bodily discharge. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when any man has a discharge from his member, he is unclean. This is uncleanness of his discharge. Whether his member, I don't like the member part. Don't like that. When his member secretes the discharge or retains it, he is unclean. All the days that his member secretes or retains anything because of his discharge, he is unclean. Any bed that the man or any bed the man with the discharge lies on will be unclean, and any furniture he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Whoever sits on furniture that the man with the discharge was sitting on is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Whoever touches the body of the man with a discharge is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain clean until evening. If the man with the discharge spits on anyone who is unclean or who is clean, he is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Any saddle the man with the discharge rides on will be unclean. Whoever touches anything that was under him will be unclean until evening, and whoever carries such things is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. If the man with the discharge touches anyone without first rinsing his hands in water, the person who was touched is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Any clay pot that the man with the discharge touches must be broken, while any wooden utensil is to be rinsed with water. When the man with the discharge has been cured of it, he is to count 7 days for his cleansing, wash his clothes, and bathe his body in fresh water. He will be clean. He must take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons on the 8th day, come before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him before the Lord because of his discharge. Okay. God. Okay, this section deals with a man who has been going with an ongoing discharge, likely probably disease related. What happens if anything he touches become unclean? The bed, the chair, objects, people. Anyone who touches those things also becomes unclean. And you may be thinking, why is this so intense? Well, impurity isn't isolated. It spreads through contact, right? So that is the first thing. Then, after everybody's been healed, we're supposed to wash, wait 7 days again, and then we're supposed to bring that offering. Meaning that restoration takes time and intention. It's not just something that's going to be, you say that you're restored and everything's fine again. No, like you need to, there's a process that you have to follow. Okay, this is normal bodily functions. So ZBM, this one's for you and your eventual normal bodily emissions with your boys. It says chapter 15 verse 16 says, when a man has an emission of semen, he is to bathe himself completely with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Any clothing or leather on which there is an emission of semen is to be washed with water, and it will remain unclean until evening. If a man sleeps with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them are to bathe with water, and they will remain unclean until evening. So, again, this is normal bodily emissions, and the result is temporary uncleanness. Washing is required, and it is important to note that this is not a sin and not about sin. This right here is about ritual cleanliness and being aware of your body and life processes. So that is the reason why they're talking about, bodily discharge and that kind of thing. Now, let's get into menstruation, the female bodily discharge. This is chapter 15, verse 19. And it says, when a woman has a discharge and it consists of blood from her body, she will be unclean because of her menstruation for 7 days. Everyone who touches her will be unclean until evening. Anything she lies on during her menstruation will become unclean, and anything she sits on will become unclean. Everyone who touches her bed is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Everyone who touches any furniture she was sitting on is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. If discharge is on the bed or the furniture she was sitting on, when she touches it, he will be unclean until evening. If a man sleeps with her and blood from her menstruation gets on him, he will be unclean for 7 days, and every bed he lies on will become unclean. So, woman considered unclean for 7 days. Anything she sits on or lies on becomes unclean. And again, kind of like the semen thing, not sinful, but we're including this because this involves blood. And if we remember throughout Leviticus, blood is equal to life, right? Meaning that these processes are treated with such seriousness and separation because it is a very serious thing. Blood is life, and we need to respect the process. So that is what we've got going on there. Now let's get into an ongoing discharge. So, similar to the earlier male case, this is if the condition continues beyond normal, this is what's going to happen. When a woman has a discharge of her blood for many days, though it is not the time of her menstruation, or if she has a discharge beyond her period, she will be unclean all the days of her unclean discharge, as she is during the days of her menstruation. Any bed she lies on during the days of her discharge will be like her bed during menstrual impurity. Any furniture she sits on will be unclean, as she is in her menstrual period. Everyone who touches her will be unclean. He must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. When she is cured of her discharge, she is to count 7 days, and after that she will be unclean, or she will be clean. On the 8th day she must take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her before the Lord because of her unclean discharge. So, like I said, similar to the earlier man case, if their, discharge is beyond normal, then there's isolation, a cleansing process, and an offering that's going to be required. Because ongoing impurity requires restoration. So, that is what we've got going on there. And then verse 31, this is a warning. This is an interesting warning. And it says, "You must keep the Israelites from their uncleanness so that they do not die by defiling my tabernacle that is among them." So that is pretty serious, right? And, dying by defiling his dwelling place, that's very serious. But God's presence and impurity, they don't mix. That's a dangerous combination there. So God's presence is holy. It's supposed to be set apart. Don't bring impurity into that holiness. And again, we are going to be ending chapter 15 with a summary. And it says, "This is the law for someone with a discharge, a man who has an emission of semen, becoming unclean by it, a woman who is in her menstrual period, anyone who has a discharge, whether male or female, and a man who sleeps with a woman who is unclean." So again, wraps up all the categories: male, female, the normal discharge, abnormal discharge. Why? Because we need clarity and consistency. So that is chapter 15. Big themes in chapter 15. 1, being holiness includes the private parts of life. Nothing is outside of God's concern. So, yeah, as if having your period wasn't bad enough. Thank you, Jennifer. Number 2, impurity spreads easily. It can spread through contact, through environment, and just in being in a general vicinity of someone. It affects other people. Number 3, not all impurity is sin, and that's huge. Some things are just natural, bodily, part of life, like a period. A menstrual cycle is part of life, but it is still required to be separated and cleansed. So that is interesting that they have that. And I kind of wish, looking back on it, I kind of wish not that we had like the cleansing process or anything like that, but like how nice would it be to just like go away for a few days to deal with our periods and then eventually come back. But like just the thought of being able to go away for a few days and get away from nagging people, that'd be nice. That'd be real nice. So, last thing, God provides a way back every single time. No matter the situation, there's a process for restoration for you. And that's a beautiful thing. Our connection to Jesus, which I've been trying to do that. And if you guys let me know if you guys are okay with this. But Leviticus, it's hard. We came from the New Testament, learning about Jesus. And now going back into the Old Testament and kind of connecting that can be kind of difficult. So I'm trying to connect it to Jesus. And you guys let me know if you guys are enjoying this. But this chapter highlights something really important. People were constantly becoming unclean, which meant that there was a constant separation and a constant effort to, be brought back and, return to society. Then, of course, Jesus shows up and does something unimaginable. He starts touching the unclean and makes them clean. Instead of impurity spreading to him, his purity is spreading to other people. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And I hope that we can be the people. Exactly. Q awakening. How can what God made be impure? Well, now, having Jesus and that he kind of takes away all of that impureness and stuff like that. So that I don't necessarily know. But Jesus' purity has spread to all of us and we are no longer considered impure. So I think that's a win in my book. Chapter 16. Chapter 16 is a little bit shorter. It's about the same. Never mind. 17 is the shorter one. 16, though. 16 is where we're going next. This is the centerpiece of Leviticus. Everything we've read so far builds to this. This is the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. This right here is that sin separates, right? The big theme of chapter 16. Sin separates, but God provides a way to cover it completely. So let's get into chapter 16. And chapter 16 starts with this. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of two of Aaron's sons when they approached the presence of the Lord and died. The Lord said to Moses, tell your brother Aaron that he may not come whenever he wants into the holy place behind the curtain in front of the mercy seat on the ark, or else he will die, because I appear in the cloud above the mercy seat. So right away, God is referencing what happened to Nadab and Abihu in Leviticus 10, where we ended Thursday. Then he says, don't come into the most holy place whenever you want. It's not just like casual access. God's presence is there. This is a very serious place. You can only come at a certain time. So that is what we've got so far. Next up, we're going to see Aaron preparing. So let's see what he has to do. Aaron is to enter the Most High place in this way, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to wear a holy linen tunic, and linen undergarments are to be on his body. He is to tie a linen sash around him and wrap his head with a linen turban. These are holy garments. He must bathe his body with water before he wears them. He is to take from the Israelite community 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. So, specific requirements. Aaron must bring specific sacrifices. And instead of wearing the elaborate garments that, with all this one, instead of wearing the elaborate garment with all of the colors and the stones and the gold and the turban and the bells and the this and the that, no, we're doing simple clothes. We're doing simple linen garments. We're wearing, no fancy priest things, because when you come into this place, when you approach me, I am the Most High. In the Most High place, you are to approach me with humility. You're not supposed to be like this showy character to, to all the world. No. You're humility. That's what we're doing. Next up, this is the most famous part. And we'll get into this for a little bit because it's very interesting, and a famous term comes from this whole thing. Aaron will present the bull for his sin offering and make atonement for himself and his household. Next, he will take 2 goats and place them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. After Aaron casts lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for an uninhabitable place, he is to present the goat chosen by lot for the Lord and sacrifice it as a sin offering. But the goat chosen by lot for an uninhabitable place is to be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement with it by sending it into the wilderness for an uninhabitable place. So, 2 goats. One is going to be sacrificed. The other one is going to be released, or the scapegoat, as we would like to call it now. And why are we taking 2 goats? That's because we are being shown 2 sides of atonement. We see the sacrifice side, but we also see the release side. And I love that they're showing us the 2-part picture here. So let's see what else. Let's see what else we're supposed to do. When Aaron presents the bull for his sin offering and makes atonement for himself and his household, he will slaughter the bull for his sin offering. Then he is to take a fire pan full of blazing coals from the altar before the Lord and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense and bring them inside the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord so that the cloud of incense covers the mercy seat that is over the testimony, or else he will die. He is to take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger against the east side of the mercy seat. Then he will sprinkle some of the blood with his finger before the mercy seat 7 times. When he slaughters the male goat for the people's sin offering and brings its blood inside the curtain, he will do the same with its blood as he did with the bull's blood. He is to sprinkle it against the mercy seat and in front of it. He will make atonement for the most holy place in this way for all their sins because of the Israelites' impurities and rebellious acts. He will do the same for the tent of meeting that remains among them, because it is surrounded by their impurities. No one may be in the tent of meeting from the time he enters to make atonement in the most holy place until he leaves after he has made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole assembly of Israel. Then he will go out to the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for it. He is to take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it on the horns on all sides of the altar. He is to sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times to cleanse and set it apart from the Israelites' impurities. So, why all the blood? We see Aaron offer sacrifices not only for himself, but for his household and for the entire community of Israel. Then he brings the blood into the most holy place and sprinkles it on the mercy seat. Again, do you remember? Blood is life. So life is required to cover sin. So they only get access to the mercy seat through sacrifice. And life, the blood, is covering all of their sins. So this is why, this is the whole, like the atonement thing. That is why. Now let's get into the scapegoat. This is where the scapegoat truly comes into play. This is chapter 16, verse 20. Verse 20 says, when he has finished making atonement for the most holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he is to present the living male goat. Aaron will lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the Israelites' iniquities and rebellious acts, all their sins. He is to put them on the goat's head and send it away into the wilderness by the man appointed for the task. The goat will carry all their iniquities into a desolate land, and the man will release there. So again, Remember, Aaron lays hands on the second goat and confesses all of the sins of the people over it. Then the goat is sent into the wilderness, meaning sin is not just covered with the sacrificial blood, it is also carried away. So sin is now transferred and carried away. And I think that is a beautiful thing, because knowing, the sacrifice that Jesus did for us, it's that same thing, kind of. That makes sense. So, yes. Artsy Jones said, a sacrifice is denying yourself, not killing an animal. I don't get it. I guess I don't understand. Oh, I don't understand how killing an animal is a good thing. A sacrifice is denying yourself, not killing an animal. I don't get it. So let's get into that. This is depicted in an episode of House of David season 2. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I didn't realize that. So let's see. So animal sacrifices serve as a temporary symbolic atonement for sin, demonstrating that sin separates human from God and requires a life payment. Yeah. While you identify sacrifice as self-denial, the biblical system focused on substitution. The innocent animal's life was surrendered in place of the guilty sinner. So that I don't necessarily have, I guess, the answers for you, Artsy. But it's supposed to be like a substitute system. And yeah, modern spiritual sacrifice is denying yourself. In the ancient covenant, though, the giving up was actually the value, like the sacrifice that you were making was the sacrifice of your valuable livestock or, food or whatever it was. And the act of taking its life forced a direct confrontation with the deadly consequences of the sin. So I think that may be kind of where we're going there. I don't know all the answers for you, and I probably just confused you more. But yeah, that is what I've been able to kind of decipher myself. And again, I'm okay with being wrong. Because I don't claim to know all the answers. So yeah, scapegoating. That's what we've got there. Yeah, substitution. That it's not necessarily sacrifice itself. It's more of like a substitute. The sacrifice is the substitution. So I hope that makes sense. Anyways, let's keep going. Verse 23 now. Washing again. Then Aaron is to enter the tent of meeting, take off the linen garments he wore when he entered the most holy place, and leave them there. He will bathe his body with water in a holy place and put on his clothes. Then he must go out and sacrifice his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering. He will make atonement for himself and for the people. He is to burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man who released the goat for an uninhabitable place is to wash his clothes and bathe his body with water. Afterward, he may re-enter the camp. The bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make atonement, must be brought outside the camp, and their hide, flesh, and waste burned. The one who burns them is to wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may re-enter the camp. So, washing. I love that. It's, kind of talks about baptism as well. But Aaron changes his clothes, washes. Also, the remains of the sacrifices are taken outside the camp because sin is taken away from the people. Another symbolism thing there. So the separation is complete. We should be washed, cleaned, all of those things. We should be right with God now. Let's see what we have to do next. This is verse 29, and this is, I think, where we're ending. Yeah, this is where we're ending chapter 16. It says, This is to be a permanent statute for you. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you are to practice self-denial and do not work, both the native and the alien who resides among you. Atonement will be made for you on this day to cleanse you, and you will be clean from all your sins before the Lord. It is a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you must practice self-denial. It is a permanent statute. The priest who is anointed and ordained to serve as high priest in place of his father will make atonement. He will put on the linen garments, the holy garments, and make atonement for the most holy place. He will make atonement for the tent of meeting and the altar, and he will make atonement for the priests and all the people of the assembly. This is to be a permanent statute for you, to make atonement for the Israelites once a year because of all of their sins. And all this was done as the Lord commanded Jesus. So, yes. Why are we making this an annual thing? Basically, to just remind everybody, humble yourselves, rest, observe it seriously, because sin is going to keep coming back. And this system is only temporary. It's not final. And of course, we know who the final sacrifice was. We know that Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice to take away this whole ritual of and ceremony of having to do this year after year, day after day. I mean, it could be, like Artsy said, it could be as simple as just stopping the sinning. But we know that that's not going to happen. So therefore, if it's not going to stop, then at least God is giving us a way to come back to him. Themes. Chapter 16. God is holy. Access is limited. You can't just walk in freely. There is a process that needs to be done. Second theme is that sin requires both covering and removal. So we've got blood, which is the covering, and then we have scapegoats, which are the removal. Both are needed. Last theme is that this system has to be repeated, which means it wasn't complete until the connection to Jesus, which was everything points directly to Jesus. Jesus is both goats. He is the sacrifice. He is the blood that covers the sin, but he is also the scapegoat. He carried away the sin. Unlike this system that we just read about, he did it all once and for all, and we don't need to repeat it every single year. So thank you, Jesus, for that. And we're almost done. We're almost done. Chapter 17, chapter 18, where these are shorter chapters, so we'll breeze through them really quickly, especially chapter 17, because it's short. But let's get into chapter 17 is how to handle the blood. So life belongs to God, obviously. And then chapter 18 is how to live morally. You don't get to, define what's right. God does. So God has the last word, the first and final word, basically. So here we go. Chapter 17, forbidden sacrifices. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses, speak to Aaron, his sons, and all the Israelites, and tell them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Anyone from the house of Israel who slaughters an ox, sheep, or goat in the camp, or slaughters it outside the camp, instead of bringing it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord before his tabernacle, that person will be considered guilty. He has shed blood and is to be cut off from his people. So, no more private sacrifices. Everything needs to be done in one place, which is the tabernacle, because it prevents people from doing things their own way and mixing it into false worship. So that I can get behind. No DIY worship. There's no one size fits all. Everybody needs to do it the certain way, certain place, certain time. That's why. Verse 5. This is so the Israelites will bring to the Lord the sacrifices they have been offering in the open country. They are to bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting and offer them as the fellowship sacrifices to the Lord. The priest will then splatter the blood on the Lord's altar at the entrance to the tent of meeting and burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. They must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat demons that they have prostituted themselves with. This will be a permanent statute for them throughout their generations. Calling them out, goat demons or false gods. We're not mixing. You can't combine God with other things. So that, I mean, we saw that in Genesis. You know, there we lost a few places because of their mixing of false demon gods or goat demons. Goat demons. Harsh words, but it gets the point across for sure. Verse 8. Say to them, anyone from the house of Israel or from the aliens who reside among them who offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice to the Lord, that person is to be cut off from his people. So repeating the rule, and actually, I didn't pull this in. Remember our Leviticus checklist that we talked about last week? Let me pull this in again so that you guys can see it. So our Leviticus checklist, remember, if God repeats something, it matters. And he just repeated the rules. God reinforces anyone offering sacrifices outside the system is cut off. Why is he being so strict? That is because worship matters and your approach matters. You have to do it under God's terms. Or you're not, there are no terms, essentially. Now let's get into the next part. Eating blood and carcasses prohibited. So this is an interesting one. Eating blood and carcasses prohibited. Anyone from the house of Israel or from the aliens who reside among them who eats any blood, I will turn against that person who eats blood and cuts him off from his people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have appointed it to you to make atonement on the altar for your lives, since it is the lifeblood that makes atonement. Therefore, I say to the Israelites, none of you and no alien who resides among you may eat blood. Any Israelite or alien residing among them who hunts down a wild animal or bird that may be eaten must drain its blood and cover it with dirt. Since the life of every creature is in its blood, I have told the Israelites, you are not to eat the blood of any creatures, because the life of every creature is its blood. Whoever eats it must be cut off. So, repetition again. It matters. This is one of the most repeated commands. The life of a creature is in the blood. Why is this so important? Because we've talked about it again and again in Leviticus. Blood represents life, and life belongs to God. Also, blood is used for atonement. We can't just treat it as like a casual thing. It needs to be used for atonement and atonement only, because that is God. That is what God wants. And this is how we end chapter 17, which is a short, sweet little chapter. I love it. It says, every person, whether the native or the resident alien, who eats an animal that died a natural death or was mauled by wild beast is to wash his clothes and bathe with water. And he will remain unclean until evening, and then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, he will bear his iniquity. So, if someone eats something improper, they must wash and clean. Why? Because impurity still needs to be addressed. You need to deal with it. Don't ignore it. Face it head on. No, not be a vegetarian. There's a certain way for you to actually prepare the meats. So like the kosher way of doing it, you have to like bless it, or halal. They drain the blood out of the meat. When they kill the animal, they drain all the blood out, and then they harvest all of the meat and everything like that. That's there's like a certain way. They're not necessarily to be a vegetarian. It's the process that is required for the slaughtering of the meat. That, I think, is what he's talking about here. So, big themes, Leviticus 17. Worship must be done God's way, not however you feel. Life is sacred. The blood is equal to life, and that life is God's. So we can't take it too lightly. And of course, don't mix truth with falsehood. No blending, no shortcuts. Truth 100% of the way. So I hope that makes sense. I didn't confuse you more. Let's see. Washing and cleaned by biblical standards at that time. Yes, I think D Dale, I don't necessarily know when you asked that, so I may have missed the context of it, but good to see you. Glad you're here. Chapter 18. Chapter 18, we are now going to be see, Tracy gets it. She said it's standard procedure to drain the blood from butchered meats or butchered animals. So that makes sense. It's just the practice of actually slaughtering the meat, if that makes sense. Chapter 18. This is where we get into how we should be living. He calls us to be set apart. This is the rules that we should be following. So, chapter 18, prohibited pagan practices. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses. Speak to the Israelites and tell them, I am the Lord your God. Do not follow the practices of the land of Egypt, where you used to live, or follow the practices of the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you. You must not follow their customs. You are to practice my ordinances, and you are to keep my statutes by following them. I am the Lord your God. Keep your statutes and ordinances. A person will live if he does them. I am the Lord. So, why is he comparing Egypt and Canaan? Well, it's the identity thing again. He's talking about Egypt, where they came from, and Canaan, where they're going to. Your identity is going to be different. You're not supposed to be out there copying the culture. Again, he is reminding them, you are to live set apart. I have giving you rules so that you can continue to live set apart. Do the thing that I'm telling you, essentially. So that, I love that comparison, because if you think about it, we all have a life before Jesus, right? And then we have a life in Jesus. So the life before Jesus, trying to compare our lives to that, he doesn't want that. We're not supposed to be following those lives. It was sinful. I'm sure you guys have different stories and things that you have dealt with. All right. Chapter 18, verse 6. Now we're going to get into family relationships. This one gets a little weird, but it's okay. It says, you are not to come near any close relative for sexual intercourse. I am the Lord. You are not to violate the intimacy that belongs to your mother and father. She is your mother. You must not have sexual intercourse with her. You are not to have sex with your father's wife. She is your father's family. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's, whether born at home or born elsewhere. You are not to have sex with her. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, for they are your family. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your father's wife's daughter, who was adopted by your father. She is your sister. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your father's sister. She is your father's close relative. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's close relative. You are not to violate the intimacy that belongs to your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual intercourse. She is your aunt. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You are not to have sex with her. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your brother's wife. She is your brother's family. You are not to have sexual intercourse with a woman and her daughter. You are not to marry her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter and have sex with her. They are close relatives. It is depraved. You are not to marry a woman as a rival to her sister and have sexual intercourse with her during her sister's lifetime. Oh, okay. That's fun. We're dealing with a lot of detail here. Boundaries, guys. These boundaries protect family structure, dignity, and community health. Boundaries. He had to set some boundaries. Obviously, if he's saying it here in this book, my guess is that there were some people who were not following this. I'm looking at you, Sodom and Gomorrah. Right. Interesting, since we all came from Adam and Eve. Clearly, we are all products of incest. However, Tracy, yes, we all come from Adam and Eve, but technically, Eve wasn't related to Adam. It was just taken from him. I don't know. You're right. People think America is living in the days of Gomorrah. I mean, we could be. We could be, but I doubt it, because we're not. I'm gonna say no. But anyways, let's get into some more depravities. We're broadening the list. We're talking about familial sexual boundaries that we should be having and holding. Now let's get into some more boundaries. Chapter 19 says, you are not to approach a woman during her menstrual impurity to have sexual intercourse with her. You are not to have sexual intercourse with your neighbor's wife, defiling yourself with her. You are not to sacrifice any of your children in the fire to Moloch. Do not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You are not to sleep with a man as with a woman. It is detestable. You are not to have sexual intercourse with any animal, defiling yourself with it. A woman is not to present herself to an animal to mate with it. It is a perversion. So, broadening the list. We include adultery, child sacrifice, same-sex relationships, and bestiality. So, including these things. And why does God group these together? Because they all distort God's design. Not everything that exists is acceptable. And I know that our society has tried to, kind of pushed our people to kind of distort that. And we see it in God knows what. And I hate that we see it, but it's good that it's becoming more and more overt, because the darkness is coming to light. And wherever there is light, the darkness cannot dwell. And I'd say we're winning if there's more and more light. So let's continue. Let's talk about the land now. And I think this is, no, not the end. We're talking about defiling the land. So chapter 18, verse 24. It says, do not defile yourself by any of these practices, for the nations I am driving out before you have defiled themselves by all of these things. The land has become defiled, so I am punishing it for its iniquity, and the land will vomit out its inhabitants. But you are to keep my statutes and ordinances. You must not commit any of these detestable acts, not the native or the alien who resides among you. For the people who were in the land prior to you have committed all these detestable acts, and the land has become defiled. If you defile the land, it will vomit you out, as it has vomited out the nations that were before you. So that is a visual, if I had ever seen one or heard one. The nations before you were defiled, right? And the land vomited them out. That right there is very strong language. Meaning that sin has consequences too, beyond the individuals. It affects the entire culture. And we are trying to get away from that depravity. So that is that. This is how we end, though. We are ending with responsibility. So chapter 18, verse 29 says, any person who does any of these detestable practices is to be cut off from his people. You must keep my instruction to not do any of the detestable customs that were practiced before you, so that you do not defile yourself by them. I am the Lord your God. So God says that anyone who does any of these things will be cut off. And why end here? Because this is about personal responsibility. You are choosing how to live. God is giving you the rules. He said you can either, I'm telling you not to do these things, because if you do these things, there are consequences. But now it's up to you. You then now get to choose how you're going to live. Are you going to live in the depravity of it all? Or are you going to live set apart? So you choose how to live. And that's chapter 18. So themes in chapter 18. God defines morality, not culture. So not Egypt, not Canaan, God. The second theme, Boundaries are protective, not restrictive. They're supposed to protect the people and the relationships and the communities. They're not supposed to be punishing them. It's not supposed to be a punishment. It's to protect them. I mean, we don't want, he, she, cousins, uh, you know, first cousin relationships with all these types of these defects and all of that. It's God is telling us to not do this for a reason. The last theme is that sin has ripple effects. It's not just personal, it is cultural and even generational. So watch the way that you live and how your sin interacts. So Leviticus 17 and 18, the connection to Jesus again. So Leviticus 17, life is in the blood. Jesus gives his blood for life, right? Chapter 18, we see the clear moral boundaries, and Jesus calls people not just to follow the rules, but also to have a transformation of the heart. So I love those two connections to Jesus. And then our last two chapters, where we will be ending today. So we got chapter 19 and chapter 20. These chapters take everything we've seen so far and make it super practical. So it's not just sacrifices and priests, but also how you treat people, live daily, and how you handle sin. And I know that we're going over time just a little bit because it's over 2 hours now. And I hope that you guys are all right with this. I hope you're still with me. If you are, make sure you hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And let me know that we're still good. But I figured it's Sunday. We don't really have anything that we're rushing off to right now. I have a little bit more time. So chapter 19, chapter 20, let's get into it. Finish off strong. And let's see where we start. Chapter 19. Laws of holiness. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses, speak to the entire Israelite community and tell them, be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. So this is a foundation. Everything that follows is what that actually looks like. Holiness, we know, is a reflection of God. So let's see. Let's see what kind of reflection he is going to be giving us, right? Okay. Just making sure my mouse fell asleep. So pulling it back up. All right. Verse 3. Each of you is to respect your mother and father. You are to keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to worthless idols or cast images of gods for yourself. I am the Lord your God. When you offer a fellowship sacrifice to the Lord, sacrifice it so that you may be accepted. It is to be eaten on the day you sacrifice it or on the next day, but what remains on the third day must be burned. If any is eaten on the third day, it is a repulsive thing. It will not be accepted. Anyone who eats it will bear his iniquity, for he has profaned what is holy to the Lord. That person is to be cut off from his people. So we're mixing the families, the Sabbath, and sacrifices all in one. So the commands include the 10 commandments, right? Artsy. Respect your parents. Keep the Sabbath. Don't worship idols. Follow proper offerings. All of that, right? Why are we grouping all of these together? Because holiness touches the family, it touches worship, and it touches your priorities. So that is where we're starting. And let's see what's going on next. So chapter 19, verse 9 says, when you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap to the very edge of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not strip your vineyard bare or gather its fallen grapes. Leave them for the poor and the resident alien. I am the Lord your God. So interesting there. Farmers must leave the edges of the fields and whatever leftover crops for the poor and the foreigner, because generosity is built into obedience, if that makes sense. And also, as we continue to go through chapter 19, we continue to see this. It keeps saying, I am the Lord. I am the Lord. It's repeated. It is like after everything. He says, I'm the Lord. You may be wondering why. I was too. I looked it up. First reason, it's for authority. When God says, do this, I am the Lord, what he's basically saying is, this is not advice. This is coming directly from me. Do it. So that is his basically establishing his authority and telling people. It also ties everything back to relationship, right? He's not just saying, I am a Lord. He's saying, I am your Lord. I brought you out of Egypt. You belong to me. So you have to live differently. So that is why he keeps saying, I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am your Lord. The third reason is because it reminds them who defines right and wrong. You know, if you keep, it's that same notion that if you keep saying it enough, it will become true. Same thing here, where God knows it's true for him, but if he keeps repeating it, it's just going to continue to keep sticking in the people's brains. So he's setting the standard and he's letting people know, I'm the guy. It also brings weight to the ordinary things, right? Like, you know, what is it? I'm trying to find one here. Do not turn to worthless idols or cast images of gods for yourself. I am the Lord your God. It brings weight to that. Notice, it shows up where treating workers fairly, don't lie, caring for the poor. We'll see more of this as we keep going. And he still says, I am the Lord, because it elevates it. It makes it spiritually more significant, because it's not just an everyday action, if that makes sense. It also, as we keep going through these, and I'll pause here to kind of keep reading through the rest of these. It's like a built-in heart check too. Every time you hear it, it's more like, are you doing this because somebody's watching, kind of thing. So that is that. And let's keep going into the rest of these. And having that little bit of background information now, hopefully, as we keep reading through this, it continues to make more sense. So chapter 19, verse 11 is where we are. It says, do not steal, do not act deceptively or lie to one another. Do not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages due a high worker must not remain with you until morning. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind. But you are to fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not act unjustly when deciding a case. Do not be partial to the poor or give preference to the rich. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not jeopardize your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Do not harbor hatred against your brother. Rebuke your neighbor directly, and you will not incur guilt because of him. Do not take revenge or bear a grudge against members of your community, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. So, we see this section seems to hit a little bit more. Obviously, we got the 10 commandments, right? Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't oppress, pay your wages fairly, don't hate anybody, and don't seek revenge. Then he shifts gears by saying, love your neighbor as yourself. That right there is huge. And this is kind of showing the heart of the law. He's saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. The reason why he's saying all of that is because he wants you to be rooted in love. Love your neighbor, because all the justice and the integrity will follow as long as you love your neighbor. So I thought that was interesting. All right, let's keep going. I think this is, oh no, we're almost done with chapter 19. I know that like I said, I'm taking you over time today. I hope that you're still here with me. Getting through it. Chapter 19 now says, you are to keep my statutes. Do not crossbreed two different kinds of your livestock. Sow your fields with two kinds of seed, or put on a garment made of two kinds of material. I can't read right now. If a man has sexual intercourse with a woman who is a slave designated for another man, but she has not been redeemed or given for freedom, there must be punishment. They are not to be put to death, because she had not been freed. However, he must bring a ram as his guilt offering to the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest will make atonement on his behalf. before the Lord with the ram of the guilt offering for the sin he has committed, and he will be forgiven for the sin he committed. Then, or when we come into the land and plant any kind of tree for food, you are to consider the fruit forbidden. It will be forbidden for you for 3 years. It is not to be eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit is to be consecrated as a praise offering to the Lord. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit. In this way, its yield will increase for you. I am the Lord your God. You are not to eat anything with blood in it. You are not to practice divination or witchcraft. You are not to cut off the hair at the sides of your head or mar the edge of your beard. You are not to make gashes on your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourself. I am the Lord. Do not debase your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be prostituted and filled with depravity. So, they seem like a lot of random rules. Things like mixing of fabrics and planting different seeds and avoiding pagan practices. Why are we including these? Well, because God is teaching distinction, meaning that not everything is meant to be blended together. We're supposed to be set apart. We're not supposed to blur the lines of these things. So I love the visuals of this because he's using different things to kind of, piece things together. But it all makes sense in the long run. At least it does to me. All right, this is where we end chapter 19, and then we just have one more chapter and then we're done. So chapter 19 verse 30 says, "Keep my Sabbaths and revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Do not trust to mediums or consult spiritists, or you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. You are to rise in the presence of the elderly and honor the old. Fear your God. I am the Lord. When all aliens resides with you in your land, you must not oppress him. You will regard the alien who resides with you as the native born among you. You are to love him as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Do not be unfair in measurements of length, weight, or volume. You are to have honest balances, honest weights, an honest dry measure, and an honest liquid measure. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and do them. I am the Lord." So, now we're focusing on fairness and honesty. The commands here are keep Sabbaths, respect God's sanctuary, treat foreigners well, use honest scales. And why? Why are we ending it here? Because holiness shows up in fairness and justice. We need to treat people right because integrity matters. So that is where we end chapter 19. Themes in chapter 19, holiness is relational, not just me and God, but in how we also treat people. And we also saw that in the New Testament as well. Love is central to this whole thing. It's not an optional, it is commanded. And then the last theme is that God cares about justice and fairness, not just rituals and all of that. He wants you to be fair. He wants justice to be served. So that is chapter 19. And this is where we end our reading for today. I think this is a really good place for us to end to. So chapter 20, consequences. We start with a shift tone or a tone shift. And now we're talking about Moloch worship and spiritism. So we're going to end here. And it may seem dark, but it's okay. The Lord spoke to Moses. Say to the Israelites, any Israelite or alien residing in Israel may give any of his children to Moloch, or who gives any of his children to Moloch must be put to death. The people of the country are to stone him. I will turn against the man and cut him off with his people, because he gave his offspring to Moloch, defiling my sanctuary and profaning my holy name. But if the people of the country look the other way when that man gives any of his children to Moloch and do not put him to death, then I will turn against that man and his family and cut off from their people both him and all who follow him in prostituting with themselves with Moloch. So, protect life. That's the overarching theme here. This is one of the most extreme distortions. And, some lines are just wrong. They're destructive. We are not meant to cross them. And this is that hard line that God holds. Protect human life. Next up, whoever turns to mediums or spiritists and prostitutes himself with them, I will turn against that person and cut him off from his people. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. Keep my statutes and do them. I am the Lord who sets you apart. So why are we warning about mediums and spiritists? Because we don't it leads you away from the truth. Go to God. We're not supposed to go to substitutes. That's not what he's asking. Next up, we've got a list of consequences. Consequences are coming up in detail. And this is the part where you guys should pay attention. Don't do any of these things. Catch my drift. All right. Family and sexual offenses. If anyone curses his father or mother, he must be put to death. He has cursed his father or mother. His death is his own fault. If a man commits adultery with a married woman, if he commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, both the adulterer and the adulteress must be put to death. If a man sleeps with his father's wife, he has violated the intimacy that belongs to his father. Both of them must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man sleeps with his daughter-in-law, both of them must be put to death. They have acted perversely. Their death is their own fault. If a man sleeps with a man as with a woman, they have both committed a detestable act. They must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man marries a woman and her mother, it is depraved. Both he and they must be burned, so that there will be no depravity among you. If a man has sexual intercourse with an animal, he must be put to death. You are also to kill the animal. If a woman approaches any animal and mates with it, you are to kill the woman and the animal. They must be put to death. Their death is their own fault. If a man marries his sister, whether his father's daughter or his mother's daughter, and they have sexual relations, it is a disgrace. They are to be cut off publicly from their people. He has had sexual intercourse with his sister. He will bear his iniquity. If a man sleeps with a menstruating woman and has sexual intercourse with her, he has exposed the source of her flow, and she has uncovered the source of her blood. Both of them are to be cut off from their people. You must not have sexual intercourse with your mother's sister or your father's sister, for it is exposing one's own blood relative. Both people will bear their iniquity. If a man sleeps with his aunt, he has violated the intimacy that belongs to his uncle. They will bear their guilt and die childless. If a man marries his brother's wife, it is impurity. He has violated the intimacy that belongs to his brother. They will be childless. So, if you guys didn't catch that, there's a list of consequences for dishonoring your parents, sexual sins, and immoral relationships. Detailed, you might say, but that's because actions have real consequences. Sin here isn't just wrong, it leads to damage. So that is that, and that is where this will lead us to our last little bit. And if you guys will give me a quick second, there is an alarm going off across the room that I need to go wake up someone for. So give me a quick second. Thank you. So that is we see the Genesis, artsy Joan. This is, I mean, really is all of the sexual offenses and all the things that we saw in Genesis. So there's that. All right, our last little bit, this is where we will be ending our reading for today. Holiness in the land. This is God's reminder. So, chapter 20 verse 22 says, "You are to keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to live will not vomit you out. You must not follow the statutes of the nations I am driving out before you, for they did all these things and I abhorred them. And I promised you, you will inherit this land, since I will give it to you to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God who set you apart from the peoples. Therefore, you are to distinguish the clean animal from the unclean one, and the unclean bird from the clean one. Do not become contaminated by any land animal, bird, or whatever crawls on the ground. I have set these apart as unclean for you. You are to be holy to me because I, the Lord, am holy and I have set you apart from the nations to be mine. A man or a woman who is a medium or spiritist must be put to death. They must be stoned. Their death is their own fault. So, we're bringing up the land again. Remember, reminders are important. God reminds them if they live like the land, the surrounding nations, the land will reject them. So, that is important. And then, of course, ending with a warning, a spiritual warning to reinforce that there should not be any occult practices and who you listen to matters. So guard your source. And of course, that is where we'll be ending. Themes in chapter 20. Sin has real consequences, not just spiritual. They are personal, they are relational, they are societal. That is, we have a lot of things that we need to keep in mind when we sin. Number 2, holiness requires boundaries. There are clear lines. They are not blurred for a reason. Last theme is that God's people are meant to live differently. We're not supposed to blend in. We are meant to stand apart. So that is where we're ending. And of course, the connection to Jesus. Jesus takes all the consequences on himself. And he's the one who is central to everything. So that is our reading for today. I know that we went a little long, and I apologize for that, but I thought it was very necessary for us to get that full little circle there. So thank you guys. Let's go ahead and pray, and then we'll wrap up the show. Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. Thank you, Lord, for giving us an opportunity to praise you and give you thanks. Lord, thank you for leading us through Leviticus 11 through 20 today. We truly appreciate you for giving us an opportunity and for loving us so much that you are giving us rules to follow, but then gave us your son Jesus as the ultimate sacrifice to take away each and every one of our sins and to cover our lives with his beautiful life and your precious blood. Lord, thank you for every single person who is watching this now, either live or on replay at a later time. We thank you for them. We put their lives in your hands, and we ask that you protect them throughout this week. Lord, anybody who is dealing with any sickness or ailments, Lord, we know that they are now healed in Jesus' name because you are the perfect healer and the perfect doctor. Lord, we thank you for our president and our nation. Bless us and keep us safe from any evil. Lord, thank you for Badlands and for all of our friends and our people in our chat. Lord, we thank you and we honor you. We praise you and we give you thanks. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen. Let's check to see if we have any rants or any coffees or anything like that. I don't think we do, which is fine. But I just wanted to double check. Here we go. Okay, nothing there in coffee. Oh, wait, look at that. So ZBM just sent in a rant real quick. She sent in a rant for $2 that says, I got a bounce. Had a lovely time learning about bodily fluids and weird illnesses. Have a great Sunday, you all, and praying your issue go away, Jackie. Thank you. I appreciate you. It is slowly going away, but I wish it would be faster. But of course, patience is what is required here. So appreciate you guys. I will be seeing you guys later this evening for what's it called? For Good Book Sessions with Bay Theater Dave. We will be covering season 4, episode 2 of The Chosen, called Confessions. You still have time to go watch the episode if you haven't already. If not, we'll see you later. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. So I love you guys. God bless each and every one of you. We will be seeing you guys soon. God bless you.